So today we will be having a lesson on the human digestive system for grade 9 learners. Now, before I start, this is what I want you to take note of in your mind. So, in the process of teaching and you listening, I want you to think of these. So by the end of this lesson, you are expected to know the main purpose of the digestive system, know the main processes taking place, describe the major functions of organs involved, and label the system, or rather be able to identify the organs involved. Okay, so the human digestive system, people might be asking themselves now, how do systems become in the same sentence as human? So from our previous knowledge, we've learned about cells, and that cells have different organelles, and that cells, many cells in our bodies. So cells are the basic unit of life. So many cells in our bodies create tissues, and tissues, a group of tissues that perform one function, compose organs. Now, examples of organs is the heart, or your liver, or your stomach, any organ you can think of. So organs are made of different tissues that serve for one or at least a similar purpose. So now, a system is a group of organs. This is my liver, this is my stomach, this is my pancreas, large intestine, and small intestine. A system is a group of organs in any organism, that a group of different organs that perform one function or serve a main purpose. All right, so this is where we start. So what is the digestive system? Now, the digestive system is a group of organs in the human body that perform one function. So what it actually does is that it converts the food we eat, for example, bread and butter, yogurt, whatever you want to eat. So it converts that food into smaller substances, or smaller molecular substances that your internal body can be able to absorb and use for certain metabolic processes. So the food we eat contains nutrients and vitamins, but now those nutrients can't be used as they are in the actual bread. What has to happen is that it has to be broken down further. You can't take the vitamins, the nutrients, and all of that in a slice of bread, but you have to eat it instead, so that it undergoes many processes in your body, namely the digestive system, so that your body can now be able to break down that slice of bread into very tiny, smaller molecular substances that it can absorb and transmit to the bloodstream to serve for different purposes in your body. Right. So what I first want us to think about, or rather learn, is that the whole process is divided into 4 stages, and the stages are namely ingestion, digestion, absorption, and elimination. So in everything that happens here, scientists have actually categorized it into stages such as ingestion, digestion, absorption. I don't know if this is clearly visible, but this is absorption, and egestion. Right. So let us now go to what actually happens. So ingestion is basically the intake of food. So what happens in ingestion is me taking my bread and eating it. Ingestion. So you ingest the food. So where the food learns, or where the food lands first, is in your mouth. Your mouth has teeth, it has a tongue, it has salivary glands that secrete saliva. All right. So what happens in here is actually other forms of digestion that we like to call mechanical and chemical digestion. So mechanical digestion involves the physical breaking down of food, and chemical digestion is when chemical substances such as enzymes or saliva in this sense do now the digestion. So what happens in here is that in the mouth, both mechanical and chemical digestion take place. In the sense that you obviously don't just put your bread in your mouth and swallow it. You have to first chew it. So the action of chewing with your teeth is mechanical digestion because that is a physical process. But now your mouth is obviously not dry, so what would it help if you just chewed the bread and it was as dry as it was when it came in? This is where chemical digestion comes in. So when the bread is chemically digested, it means that your salivary glands actually secrete saliva because your body functions in a way that is very amazing. You, by just smelling food or seeing food, your salivary glands can actually secrete saliva and prepare you for eating. And so when that happens, your mouth becomes watery. All right, so you actually chew with your teeth, and while you are chewing, there is actually saliva that is helping out to moisten the food or chemically digest it so that you can be able to swallow it, in the sense that it will actually now be eliminated from your mouth and go even down. All right. So what happens in the mouth here is that we chew, and the saliva that moistens the food, and then our tongue, while chewing, creates the mold, or rather the food, into a substance called a bolus. So your food that you have inside becomes into a roundish shape that is easily swallowed. So when we are done with the mouth part, your food now goes down the esophagus. So what happens in here is that your food is chewed and it goes down in a movement called peristalsis, which is a wavy like movement. So it doesn't just drop down, it has to go in this manner. This is what happens. I'm sorry because I do not have much space, but I think you'll just follow along. So this is my little bolus. This is my bread. I've swallowed it and now it is going down my esophagus. And the first place it reaches is your stomach. So your stomach is a very muscular organ. It is muscular in the sense that it is double-walled, and it is also very acidic because it contains hydrochloric acid. So what happens in here, there is also chemical and mechanical digestion. Chemical digestion in the sense that, since we know that the stomach contains hydrochloric acid, the hydrochloric acid now helps the bolus which we have swallowed. It further breaks down that bolus using that hydrochloric acid so that it could be even into smaller substances than it was. And by smaller, I would like you to not just think of smaller in size, but in a chemical composition way, in the sense that matter is actually broken down to its smaller substances because our body can only absorb molecular substances. All right. So what happens in the stomach is that chemical digestion takes place because of hydrochloric acid, and then mechanical digestion also takes place because the walls of your stomach actually push in together or bump into each other, mixing the food with all of that hydrochloric acid, and the result that will come after that is now called chyme or chyme, whatever you would like to call it, but as long as you are very aware of the spelling. So when the stomach is done with digestion, it obviously comes out down with a product called chyme. And then the food, the chyme moves down to your stomach to the small intestine. Now, the small intestine is where absorption happens. Remember, we said digestion is divided into ingestion, digestion, absorption, and ingestion. Remember, the whole purpose of digestion, we don't just want the food to be broken down for fun or for entertainment, but we're doing that so that our bodies can actually take some of that good stuff and do actual work with it. So in the small intestine right here is where all of that happens. So the small intestine is actually called small because the tube, it's a very tiny tube, but it's very long. And the large intestine, yes, it is shorter than the small intestine, but it is quite big in size, right? So the charm will be in here in the small intestine. Now this is where the nutrients are absorbed because the small intestine is full of blood capillaries, where now it will absorb the nutrients that are there and send it into our bloodstream for all the purposes that we have mentioned. And then when all of that good stuff has been taken away, there is still a byproduct left. There is still something in there. So that something will be going now into our large intestine. Now this is almost the last process that is happening here. Now in the large intestine, first of all has a bacterium called E. coli bacteria, which is a very mutualistic bacteria to us humans. Yes, it helps us in this digestion. So what happens in here is that what has not been digested, or rather, not because the small intestine couldn't digest it, but because the small intestine took what it actually needed, which is all the good stuff from our food, and now what is left is considered unnecessary to the body. And because all of the sufficient things have been taken in its good amount. So the leftovers will be passed on through the large intestine, where they will be further broken down, and there is a lot of water in here, and there's the E. coli bacteria that will be assisting in breaking down whatever of this is left. And then it will pass through the large intestine, move until at this point in your rectum, it will be formed into feces, which is basically what the body doesn't need. And then the feces will be stored in here for quite some time until your body, or until you yourself, relax your anus and release it. And so the final part is the big anus, or not the big anus inside, but because it does the major part. So the anus is the opposite of the mouth. In the mouth we ingest, in the mouth we put all of the good stuff in, but what happens in the anus is that now we ingest. So we are taking things out. So the anus is helping us taking all of the unwanted stuff out of the body, because we don't need that much of bad things. Your body is working or functioning in a manner that it has to eliminate certain things that are not suitable for your body. And so that is pretty much it. But there are organs that you will realize I did not talk much about but are here, which is the liver, the gallbladder, and the pancreas. Now these three are called accessory organs, and yes, they do have a role in digestion, because they secrete certain digestive juices. For example, the gallbladder secretes a juice that enables fat to be digested. Okay, and the pancreatic juice also secretes pancreatic juices that help for the digestion of all the kind just right before it is in the small intestine. So that is what happens. I would like now to summarize and say, we say digestion involves breaking down the food we eat into smaller molecular substances that can be absorbed by our bodies. And what happens is that it is divided into four main stages, which is ingestion, digestion, absorption, and digestion. Now, various organs are listed or help in the work. Your mouth has your tongue, your teeth, and your salivary glands, which help mechanically and chemically digest the food. And then you swallow the food, and it goes down your esophagus to your stomach. Your stomach, which is very acidic and whose walls will now collide with each other in digesting the food so that it becomes time, and then it is passed on to the small intestine where absorption happens, where now since it has been broken down and now yippee, my body can actually now take something it needs in the very nature or form. It can actually take it in. It absorbs all of that good stuff, takes in a lot of that nice stuff the body needs. And then an example of those are amino acids, which are building blocks of proteins. So your body cannot absorb proteins, the compound, or rather the molecule protein as it is, but it has to be digested, broken down into simpler substances, which are called amino acids. Alright? And then all of the nice stuff is absorbed, and the remaining stuff is taken to the large intestine, which also will be further broken down. And there's also water in there to help moisten whatever is in there, so that in the process of digesting it, with also the help of the bacteria that is found here, it can now be formed into feces, which your body will have to excrete later on. And from the rectum, we have the anus, which will now expel whatever we had there from the rectum out of our bodies. And yes, that is all I have today for the human digestive system.